fighting is far from over.
Not for this exercise.
Welcome to Back of the Rack, a gaming videocast about games long neglected and not respected, games that everyone's heard of or hated, or no one's heard of and loved. We play the games in between the essentials and the unwanted, but mostly, we play what we want on this podcast. Join our Discord where you can talk with us and others about Back of the Rack games, and make sure to like and comment on our videos and leave good reviews on the podcast feeds. Your feedback and engagement is the fuel that keeps us going. We hope everyone watching and listening is doing great, and we thank you for joining us today on another episode. Starting off, we will introduce this month's game with a scripted segment giving you all the details, and then we will go into our unscripted thoughts about the game shortly afterwards. I'm Sondi, and with me always is Bendezzer, so without further ado, enjoy.
Near the end of the Cold War, the war-torn country of Lazaria is exposed to an airborne pathogen called the technocyte. The plague leaves victims with metallic-like mutations that progress as the host becomes violent. In present day, the Lazarian military struggles to fight off the infected, which is where Hayden Tenno, a CIA operative and the player character, enters the picture. Tasked with three main objectives: find the captured informant, Sudek, stop his ghastly virus from spreading even further, and eliminate the man responsible, Messner. After seemingly completing his mission, Hayden is ambushed by Messner and his mysterious infected super soldier, who strikes Hayden's shoulder and exposes him to the technocyte. Now succumbing to the symptoms of the infection, Hayden must fight his way through the desolate countryside to stop Messner and save himself. However, the effects of the technocyte on Hayden's shoulder have progressed far enough to consume his entire right arm, along with growing an organic glaive that he can freely control. With the technocyte now proving to have utility, Hayden must learn to harness the power of the rapidly spreading pathogen in order to survive against Messner's militia and the infected he commands. Dark Sector is a third-person cover-based shooter that focuses on Hayden's iconic glaive. Players must use this organic weapon not only for combat scenarios, but for the environmental puzzles in order to progress the story. Hayden can use the glaive to pick up weapons and items in the heat of battle, or supercharge his glaive to dismember foes. Throughout your playthrough, Hayden's infection will intensify, unlocking more mystifying abilities such as harnessing elemental attacks, energy shields, and invisibility. Due to his infection, Hayden's use of enemy weapons is restricted. The Lazarian military, who has been fighting infected for some years now, have been outfitted with weapons that have a self-destruct module that activates if it detects the user is carrying the technocyte. This gives players more reason to rely on the glaive, leading to frantic firefights and using your newfound powers to prevail. To counteract this, players can use currency found to purchase heavy weapons at various black markets found through manhole covers. Weapons can also be upgraded. Stats like accuracy and firepower can be increased by finding suitcases containing upgrades found in Lazaria. First announced in 2000, was originally pitched as a first-person MMO. Digital Extremes, at the height of their breakout hit Unreal Tournament, wanted to create a spacefaring persistent world where players could seamlessly fly between space stations and planets as they fought for resources. Reintroduced in 2004 as the first next-gen title announced, Dark Sector looked very similar to what we know as Warframe, but market research showed that players were showing little interest in deep space sci-fi titles. This, among with other factors, delayed Dark Sector another 4 years to repurpose the game to market to a broader audience. This team reworked Dark Sector into its present state, foregoing the persistent, massively multiplayer world that would eventually become Warframe.
Can't just leave him there. I know where he is.
Dark Sector received favorable reviews, with most critics panning the glitches and enemy AI. Dark Sector's turbulent development and delays ultimately proved more detrimental to its overall perception, not distinguishing itself enough in a market that would soon see a plethora of shooters. Dark Sector lives on through Warframe, from the namesake to Hayden and the Nemesis forms being reused for Warframe designs. Countless callbacks are present in Warframe, the biggest being the latest expansion, 1999, which at the time of this video has not been released. Warframe's continued success only leads to casting a greater shadow on this forgotten game. A common bargain bin benchwarmer, Dark Sector has gained a cult following due to its connections to the greater Warframe lore, making this game a perfect choice for Back of the Rack. When did you first hear of Dark Sector?
Game Informer. That's all I remember. I remember the Game Informer cover where I believe it was Hey Nintendo on the cover, because I think it was like right after the like Crackdown and Fear of and Respect, like the Snoop Dogg game, like around that era of Game Informers, and it had a cover story and everybody was talking about that. But I never saw gameplay. I never picked it up, but I always saw it on the shelf and in the bargain bin. But I was never like, let me pick up that shooting game.
That's exactly the same place I saw it, and I think I actually have the Game Informer with Hayden on it or whatever, and it's just like, it's kind of iconic now because it's like the Game Informer. I think I've had that Game Informer for what, 10 years now, just like hanging around, like when I move, you know, my box of magazines, I always see it like on top, or it's always the one,
right?
But yeah, don't remember anyone talking about this game, that's for sure. But it sold well enough that you see enough copies out in the wild. It's always in like a PS3, what do you call it? A lot, you know, on eBay, or like if you go to Gamestop, or not that they have PS3 games now, but back in the day, you'd see a couple copies. And it's always cheap too. It's always like the fucking $3.99, $5, maybe 10.
Buy two, get one free. Yeah.
Yeah.
You always saw it.
It's nostalgic in a way that it really is like an imprint of that time, you know. It's like the visual style. It's very Gearsy in the way it looks, you know. I remember those two games, Gears and Dark Sector, in my mind, bro. Like for a while I thought they were connected when I was younger, because they had such a similar, like, they had like the dark gritty look, and I remember seeing gameplay of it, and I'm like, oh, I think those are they the same thing? Is that like you just play a different character?
You run the cover, it's got to be the same thing.
Yeah, it has like the same movement, sort of, you know. So I remember thinking I thought maybe that they were connected, or maybe it was just the same game or something. Gears of War, Dark Sector, I don't know. What year did this come out?
This came out in 2008.
2008, yeah, that's what it was.
I said 2010.
Okay.
That's too late.
Yeah.
Feels like it comes out. Feel like it came out earlier in the like lifespan of the console. I feel like it's like a 2007, 2006 game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it has that. You know, the game case has like the PlayStation, the original like Spider-Man font on the spine or whatever.
Yeah, it has.
So that's how you know.
Side one.
Yeah. So you kind of know, but anyway. So presentation. What are you thinking?
I'm gonna start with a positive here. I actually like the biggest thing that stood out to me when looking at this game, because I'm trying to grade it. I know we have this like unjust bias against like this generation of games and their muddy, moody, ugly ass contrast with everything, but I really like the dynamic lighting that this game had. It was very surprising for the time to just see it. Like there's certain hallways where the lights are moving with the motion of the explosions and the wind, and you can see it, and it looks really good. Especially with is it a filter? I'd say it's a filter. I don't think they caked it in like that. I think it's like a sepia filter over everything, you know what I mean? But this filter looks good, at least. It gives it a good mood to what it is. It's a lifeless city, so it fits the tone of the city of the game, and I enjoyed that. Yeah,
like you're talking about like the color palette. It's very, very green and dark. And then what they do, I've noticed, is they have a lot of like warm yellows and like whites to kind of contrast it, because the lights are usually like a really bright white or like a really bright yellow, so they sort of pop more behind the really greenish tint of everything all the time, you know. I mean, there are some very brown levels too, very orangey levels, but you go in between those. I mean, you do start the game. Man, now that I think about it, this game does have a lot of colors going for it, because you start the game in black and white, and then you get infected with the virus or whatever, and then it turns into like a really dark, whatever, the green and orangey tones that they highlight a lot, which is cool. I thought that was
The Transformers 1 colors.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's very it's a very like cinematic 2008, like cinema lens sort of thing that they got going, which I think a lot of people liked at the time. I think like in hindsight, we talk about how all the games sort of look the same with like their dark grittiness and stuff, but like games were starting to mature in a way. All the colors that they were choosing and like the more serious nature of everything really coincided with that generation of games, because there were more adults playing it, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. So they were like, yeah, let's make them look more serious and not as cartoony, and like this doesn't look like it's for kids, it's definitely for like a more serious, adult gamer kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's rated M, right? Because so it has
it is rated M. It is a lot of blood. It does a lot of crazy things that happen. Doesn't he get his arm chopped off in the beginning?
Yeah, it doesn't show it though. But I think the idea is, I think the idea might just be that they stab him in the shoulder and it gets infected, so his arm doesn't actually get cut off. Yeah, but some people get like decapitated. The animations show a lot of brutal takedown, things like that.
Yes.
I did think that as far as a presentation aspect of it, going from black and white into like the sort of colored world was kind of cool. Like it's almost as if like him having the virus gives the world a more like a very oversaturated look or something, and so you see that as you're playing as him. But yeah, I don't know. I liked it. I liked it more than I thought I would in terms of how it looked. And like you're saying, with like the dynamic lighting and all that.
Yes, especially because you could tell from a technical standpoint, just certain things that like, yeah, this is an early 7th generation game. And you can tell just by the way that the AI maneuvers, some animations are still stiff and rigid a little bit, as well as the way that aiming works, and there's a lot of screen shake and just small things that with recoil or getting hit that's like very disorienting, or the way that there's like a certain wobbliness. Did you notice that about the camera, that there's like a wobbliness sometimes? Like if you get out of cover, it doesn't center. It's kind of like off center, kind of tilted a little bit to, I guess, give that sense of motion. But that was the only thing that really took me out of it, because it gave me a lot of motion sickness just staring at it for long periods of times, even though it's the third person. It's weird.
Like it drew attention to itself enough to where you would like it kind of made
to where it was almost unbearable and unbearably noticeable, especially with now with games having the ability to turn off motion blur and screen shake and stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't think I mind. I usually like that kind of stuff, so I didn't mind it too much. But yeah, there definitely is a lot of camera motion to give it a sense of, to give it a filmic quality, because it's like the camera is following him, like like in a movie or something. So it's like like a hand what is it, like a steady cam sort of handheld look to it. But I think Gears of War had that too, so it's definitely sort of emulated that from Gears.
Because Gears of War had the worst one where it like locks you in and you're running straight ahead.
When you're sprinting, and then it's just like it's very much like the camera, like someone is on foot with you, following like,
right behind you. Let's go
with the camera, which is very interesting. And I was gonna ask you about the sprinting. How do you feel about that sprinting like stiffness, where it's like once you start sprinting, you're sort of locked into the direction, you can't really steer yourself like properly, like that mechanic? Like, how do you feel about that?
I kind of liked it. I liked it in combat because it kind of made it more visceral, from running out of cover, rushing to the next point of cover, throwing a glaive, cutting somebody's head off or something like that, or throwing a grenade. It did make combat feel better, at least when I was in the heat of everything. But when you're just, running in those small exploratory moments, like, all right, I'm trying to get to the next part, and you're just sprinting, and you're like, I gotta stop. Turn around. Sprint again.
Yeah. That was the thing. And when when I was doing the sprinting, I was kind of thinking to myself, like, how is sprinting handled now in third person games? Like, I
It's
can't,
just
like,
kind of like it's like a
is it
zoom
more,
out. Yeah, it's
is it
more
more
like a zoom
free?
out and you just run.
Like in the Division, right? Are you able to like sprint and like kind of move? You can, right? I
Yeah.
kind of can't
Division,
remember.
you can move.
You can, okay, yeah.
Trying to think of what else. Yeah, Saints Row. Yeah, you just sprint. GTA. Yeah. You just sprint, and it's less rigid now. It's more
Yeah,
just
it's less like a mad dash straightforward. It's more like you can kind of like Uncharted, right? Is there a sprint in Uncharted? I can't even,
Is there a sprint?
right?
I thought it was just he just runs. I guess I don't
I
know.
think I remember there being a sprint in Uncharted 3 because I remember that being added after Uncharted 2 because a lot of games were starting to add sprint at that point in time.
Right.
And so Uncharted 3 adopted the sprint, and it was very much like if you're gonna sprint, you're gonna run forward, and there's no there's no like free motion, you know.
Right.
It was very rigid, and the camera also like dropped a little bit lower when you hit sprint.
I think. Yeah. The club. Yeah. Everything. Yeah. You sprint. It was. You're locked in. Yeah.
Right.
That was of the era. Gears of War really set the tone for the entire generation, and it's kind of gross.
It
That and
did.
Call of Duty, it was either you had a Call of Duty sprint or a Gears of War sprint. No in betweens.
Wait, did Resident Evil 4 have?
Yeah, Resident Evil 4 sprint was very Gears of War.
Okay.
Where it locks you.
Okay.
Same with
Yeah,
6.
That's right. Yeah, 6 definitely had that like super rigid
I know
sprint,
5 did. That shit was annoying.
Yeah. What did you think about the heads up display, the all the interfaces and the HUD and stuff and the menus?
See, it takes a lot to give me like a good UI. Like it didn't pop out. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's very cut and dry. Some of it felt very beta-ish. Like the weapon wheel, like selecting your weapon, that felt very beta-ish.
Really?
Same with the black market shop. Like it felt tacked on, like an afterthought. Like that was like we gotta throw this in.
Yeah.
Like after they focus test the game, they were like, oh, maybe we should add some consumables and collectibles or something of the sorts.
Did you find the menus readable or like?
Yeah, they were very readable. They're very.
Okay.
But see, that's what I'm saying. It's very basic font. Like it looked like a debug menu, kind of sort of, where it's like here's a basic GUI with a gradient. We'll throw it up.
Yeah.
No drop shadow, no stroke or nothing like that. We'll just put it straight through pause.
Yeah, I didn't like the menus at all. I mean, it's just white text, but I think the layout. Well, for one, they're going for a very minimalistic look, right? So when you're in game playing as Hayden, there's no life bar at the top. There's no your weapons and what you have equipped, and your clip size isn't. I don't think it's always showing, right? I think
it only shows towards the end, and like when you reload.
Right. But at least like your health and things like that, which was common at the time to do a very minimalistic, like, let's hide all the elements and just let people be more immersed in like the visuals, which is why you get like the
energy with your arm. It's like connected to your arm. That's how you can tell if you have enough energy to use your abilities. So I mean, I guess you couldn't really,
which
do
is
it
really
as a third
cool.
person.
Yeah, and I think it's a little. I feel like it's a bit. They needed to kind of lean into it more because I do feel like it glows, but then like when it refills, it's almost like you can't tell. You're just like, what level am I at here? Like you couldn't. I feel like I could have just been more clear.
Right, or even just a visual effect, like a or like steaming or something that lets you know
exactly.
Like, okay, your ability's ready.
There we go. Yeah, it needed some sort of visual feedback for you to know, like, okay, where am I at with this? But I did think it was a step in the right direction. Something that you don't really see too much anymore. I mean, Dead Space being like one of the biggest, like, the health bar on your suit, being one of the most like in-game sort of immersion. Like this is your health, but it's on your character, so it feels very like appropriate and like, I guess, thematic,
Right.
So I mean, it was cool to have his arm do that, and then also to have his arm transform as the game progresses. I'm like, it's
cool. That's really cool. And then when you finally get the full suit, it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. It's a great visual sort of like, not a motif, but it gives you this sense of progression, you know? Like, I feel like this game has little things that I think just elevate it more than I thought it would. You know, I thought it was going to be extremely generic. And there's like little things like that where it's like, oh, cool, his arm is uh, getting more infected or whatever the hell you want to call it. It's evolving, you know? And then you get your suit and it's just like now the look is complete and you feel like you've gotten
like
somewhere.
you got that suit. You
It's
feel
like, wow.
just as strong as well too. I like that it's also a callback, but I guess that's more of a hindsight thing now. Where
It is a hindsight thing, yeah.
you
For
look
sure.
at all of this stuff that in this game that's in Warframe now, like
Warframe.
Hayden Tenno is the Warframes. You
Yeah.
are Excalibur, the first Warframe that you get in Warframe, and you fight
Yeah.
the boss that you fight in the game. Jackal is the first boss that you fight in Warframe. The other one that you
Right.
fight is Rhino, is another Warframe. Lotus, like all of these different callbacks that Warframe has from this game. You can see that being implemented in, and it's kind of like you can see that they had to like take what they were thinking about with Warframe and kind of like tone it back down to a marketable, make it palatable back to the masses instead of what they were trying to do. Like they knew like I can't just give them Warframe. They wouldn't like this shit.
Yeah, audiences wanted something very different at that time, which is interesting in and of itself to think that people weren't ready for war. It is pretty weird. Warframe, even when I remember, like when Warframe came out, I remember thinking visually and its ideas. I'm like, this is really strange. You know, that first level fighting.
You don't have
I was
a
like,
face.
yeah, I'm like, what are you? You're like this organic material. Like, are you? I don't understand.
Are you a robot? Are you not?
They're like borderline badass looking, but also a little grotesque in some way.
Because
like,
it
they're
looks
like kind
fleshy.
of ugly.
It doesn't look like it's like metallic. Yeah,
exactly. You know, so it is strange.
I bet you there's somebody in the comments that's like, there's a lore reason I cannot spoil, because you know the Warframe community is like, I can't spoil anything, but there's an answer to it. That's probably the exact answer to it.
I'm sure it is cool that this game has a sort of second life in some sense because of Warframe and was it the DLC coming out, or is that a whole separate game, the 1999 thing?
Yeah, so that's that's just like an expansion of Warframe.
Expansion.
So like Warframe has these, from what I've played of Warframe, and every time that I at least attempt to hop into Warframe, the numerous times I've tried, there's always like there's like a main story for the game, and then there's like side stories and past stories. Like the last time I played, there was like a story where like you actually had a face, like you were a person, and you had abilities, and it was like a roguelike mode, and you had to like go around this like completely different open world, and you had like a horse. I don't fucking know. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's but I figured that this 1999 thing would be just like this was, where it's just an option on the menu. You click it, you boot up to this whole separate story mode that you can just do and enjoy. That'll probably wrap up between Dark Sector to Warframe. That'll be the in-between part or something of the sorts like that, as they, I guess, wind down Warframe to build up Soulframe, which is like the next one.
Oh shit, okay. There's a whole fucking...
Yeah, there's a second one. Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot. That's what I'm saying. Is Warframe is one of those ones. It's one of those black hole games, as we were talking about in our Discord. It's a lot of people that just play that game, and that's it. That's my game. I put a million hours into grinding. Can't be
one of the first live service games, would you say?
Yes, it was. It actually was one of the first non-MMO live service games.
Sort of like, game as a service. Yeah, because you could like buy shit with real money. I don't know if there was a battle pass implemented, but
there is a battle pass now. But the battle pass is free now, though. It's just like here's the monthly battle pass. You just, as long as you play the game, you'll get some bonuses, like some cosmetics and stuff.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, back to Dark Sector. I think that there was a lot of this game has a lot of atmosphere too, but I think the atmosphere, like if we think of it in terms of levels, like level 1, level 2, level 3, let's say like Resident Evil 4 has a level 3 atmosphere, you know. Resident or Silent Hill has a level 3, like, you know, the atmosphere levels. I feel like this one is like a level 2, and I feel like there are things that they were trying to go for that they don't quite nail. And I think it could be because the world feels lifeless, for one. You're like in a lot, like you go to a lot of places, but they feel lifeless and they also don't feel organic. Like they feel like video game levels.
Yeah,
Like some of the
oh,
houses that you're in.
it's a
Yeah.
corridor of shoulder high cover.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of that makes it feel a little bit more video gamey. But you go to a lot of places, right? So you're in like a graveyard, you're in like a hospital, you're in a like sewer system, you're in the laboratories, abandoned homes. You go to a bunch of places as you're, you know, just progressing through the story, which is
Yeah.
cool.
And the time of
But
day changes as well throughout. Like it was one time it was raining, then it stops raining and it's like sunset. So
yeah,
I mean, it has a different appeal,
Yeah.
but I guess it is by design that the city's lifeless because the city is in an
That's-
pandemic or whatever.
exactly. There's a sort of hopelessness to it, you know. As you're going through it, you see like a bunch of body bags, but there's something missing. Like they feel like, I don't know if it's like they feel too generic. Like there's trash bags and body bags of people and like blood on the walls sometimes, but like I feel like there's a lack of little details, you know, and that could just be a limit of the hardware. But I don't know. There was just something like the atmosphere was almost there for me where I was like, this is cool, but I feel like it's missing some little details, like
Yeah,
a
'cause
table with
there's
a chair with like, I don't know.
There's a level where you like go through a subway station, and it would have been nice to see, like you said, some body bag. There was no body bags there. Like have some body bags or like a bunch of luggage to be like all these people were trying to escape, but they didn't. Some
Yeah.
of the sorts to tell a visual story with the environment, but
A stronger visual story, yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, like it was almost there for me. Like they definitely nailed the lifeless, bleak sort of hopelessness of the world, that's for sure. But it just wasn't that level 3 atmosphere. It was like that level 2 where it's like, you know, you're almost
almost
there. You're almost there. And I think it's because it's, well, I don't know, maybe because it's so linear, maybe because it's, you know, you're following a specific path and they're taking you to all these things. I don't know. It's really more of a shooter than it is anything else. So I think in some way you lose some of that atmosphere because of it. I don't know. Because there's no exploring. You're not really
Right.
exploring. You
and
know?
they have to
It's-
railroad the player so you don't
Exactly.
get bored and be like, because if they forced you to interact with the environment more than you needed to, I guess it would kind of take away from it. Like most people, like they were dumbing the game down for, probably be like, this isn't shooting enough. I'm going back to Gears of War. So,
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. It was actually, while we're on the topic, what do you feel about, and I guess this could be like a status check fucking topic to begin with, but I read a lot of the reviews for this game and a lot of people, a lot of critics were calling it a clone, like a Resident Evil Gears of War clone. How do you feel about things being called a clone of something when it's like inspired by, or it's, you know, like a
Yeah.
God of War clone, like where I'm like, wait, well, when is it not just a clone, and when is it just like this is that genre and it's just doing the same thing as that genre? Like, you know what I mean?
right.
Because it
Yeah,
kind of bothers me.
'cause-
It's a little reductive.
Yeah, because Metroidvania isn't really like, it's not gonna. I'm Samus. I'm gonna have a gun, and I'm going, like, you know, it's not saying that, oh, it's just gonna be chickens in the wall or anything like that. It's just talking about the general landscape of exploring, finding a power up to backtrack to explore more. Whereas,
Right.
like when people say Souls, like you kind of already know, or Souls clone is like, oh, it's gonna play R1 to hit, R2 to hit. We're gonna have a parry, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I call them now stamina action games because they kind of they've evolved more than what they were before. Because the very first ones, yeah, they were just, oh, you tried to make Dark Souls again. but now they've evolved more, like Steel Rising, Lies of P, Sekiro, Neo. They all have their own different styles of that type of gameplay. I don't know. I don't know when you would say it, because that feels cathartic a little bit. Because that's like saying, like, trying to think of all the other games that we played. That's like saying,
Well, because what I think Musashi was a good one, right? Where it's like a Zelda clone, or like
yes, Zelda
or
clone, or calling Death by Degrees a Metal Gear Solid clone.
exactly, yeah. It's just like, I mean, when
I
is
guess.
something, it just feels like a very, like I'm saying, a very reductive way to explain something. Like Dante's Inferno, right? God of War clone, but it's like,
But God of War was a clone of Devil May Cry, so
yeah. So it's like, I mean, so what? No one can ever make anything that's similar in combat style unless it's a clone, or like Dynasty Warriors, right? It's like, oh, this is just a One Piece clone of Dynasty Warriors now. It's like, it's
it is
just
but
genre, but it's like
yeah,
a genre though that I feel like clone is just very, it's insulting, or maybe it feels derogatory to call something a clone. When someone says like, like no one says it in good faith. No one says like, oh yeah, it's a it's a Final Fantasy clone. Like no, like
yeah.
you
Ahead in
usually say it
time.
as
It's
like
a Super Mario 64 clone. Like no, it's a jumping game. I mean, a platformer.
It's a platformer. Yeah,
it's a jumping game.
It's a jumping game. Yeah, but it is kind of interesting though. To derail the whole conversation there.
What did you think of the enemy design?
Pretty solid. I mean, I think there was a bit of a lack of variety, but you tend to sort of give these older games a bit more grace because of hardware limitations and things like that. But yeah, I mean, at first I was getting a little bored of fighting the quarantine guys in the yellow suit things, and I was just like, wow, there's really you guys all look the same. Okay, I mean, whatever.
You orange ones have a shotgun. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, but then they switched it up, and I was like, oh shit, okay, now there's like these dog things, and now there's these zombie infected kind of things, and then again, visually they progress and they get worse and they look uglier, more deformed, which is cool. I was like, okay, so then and then you had the like the bosses, I guess you would call them, right? Like the bigger, I don't know what the hell they are. They're not
robots, I guess, or whatever. I don't know what they were.
yeah, but you had those which looked cool. The jackal, which was one of the robots, I thought it was cool that you could get in from the back or whatever.
Yeah, and violate it. I thought that was really cool.
I was like, oh, that's a little surprise. So this game was filled with like these little like just nuggets of like, damn, okay, like I didn't think I'd be able to do that, or this is kind of cool. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a solid enemy design. I don't really have any complaints. I mean, aside from the actual character models, the way they look, like the main characters, Mesner, Hayden, what's the girl's name? Not
Accent the wrong guy.
Nadia.
Yes.
I'm like, they all looked weird and off to me, and but that's just that generation.
That era.
Yeah. What can you do? They tried. You can tell that they at least tried to do something with them, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, the design of the suits are cool. The Warframes always, as we were just talking about earlier, they look cool, borderline disgusting. But when Nadia is in her suit, it looks sick. She looks imposing and otherworldly.
Yeah, you kind of took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say about that. Yeah, the variety was my only complaint with the enemies, but every enemy had a cool design. They had cool mechanics and weaknesses that you could deal with, and I enjoyed that, at least when it came to the enemies. I just wish that there was more to it after, a couple of chapters of fighting the same things. You start to be like, all right.
Yeah.
Give me a boss or something now, please.
Right. I thought it was paced well enough where every time I was about to get tired of fighting the same enemies, they would throw in. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. What did you think, out of curiosity? I mean, I guess you sort of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the finisher animations,
they were pretty cool, but they were really stiff. They were so cool. Like, it could tell it was like, oh yeah, this is like a PlayStation 2 like
animation. Yeah. You could tell they weren't mocapped for sure with the way they looked. I was like, oof. I was kind of sad about the lack of variety, you know.
Yes, each particular type of enemy only had one finisher animation. I thought that was kind of a waste of. Like we could at least got like 2 or 3. If we're gonna be fighting the same 4 enemies each time.
Exactly. I found that there were about 4 animations, maybe 5, but because it's a 10-hour game roughly, you know, you're seeing these animations and you're just like, okay, and it's the same ones. Like I don't know. I don't even know that there needed to be animations really, especially because they do feel a little bit lackluster. Like they don't have that punch that you want. You know, like I got like that God of War.
Some blood on a screen or something.
Yeah, they could have done that. Yeah, there's something a little lacking in there, but I mean, I guess it's a nice touch. I like the visual indication of them glowing red to let you know, like, oh shit, I can go up and
it's time to kill.
Yeah, it's time to. Yeah, it's just funny, like gamified kind of shit like that. What else do I have for just the overall? Oh, the black market. So we talked about more of the gameplay side of how it was implemented, and it just feels sort of tacked on, but I thought it was kind of clever. I liked the the manhole covers. I thought it was cool. I was like, that's kind of cool. It'd be cool, like, if there's a bit more to it. But I kind of, like, I didn't, again, something that sort of caught me by surprise. I'm like, oh, cool. I just go to this, like, this random black market guy, kind of like in Resident Evil 4, you know, with the guy with the trench coat or whatever.
He just appears and he's like, I got you. Give me those rules. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I kind of liked it. I thought, again, it was like something that you had some thought or a little bit of inspiration to it. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, it's just like you press select and then you have the store available to you or whatever at certain times.
You can just do it.
Yeah, so it was kind of cool. Again, not fully fleshed out as it could have been, but I liked it. Thought it was cool. Do you have anything else about the presentation?
No. It's a pretty good game. I give it a solid 3 out of 5 for the visuals. I don't really rate shit, but I'm rating shit right now. It's good for what I expected budget. You know what I mean? I expected that bargain bin, but it is bargain bin. It's got some soul to it.
Yeah, it definitely had, like, there's a vision, and I do appreciate that. Yeah, it's not bad. Not, again, one of those things where I thought it was going to be uglier, maybe more boring than it was. So I was like, okay, this is, except again, the menus kind of are, but luckily you're not doing too much in them, and I don't think that they're as functional or readable, honestly. Like, I couldn't sometimes I was like upgrading your, you know, which I guess we'll talk about in the gameplay, but let's go into story. Is this story integral to understanding, like, Warframe, or is it just kind of whatever? Like, do you know if they're...
It's kind sort of whatever, like, until this DLC proves me otherwise. But it's kind of just like a... Maybe this takes place in the same universe, but mostly it's like a lot of these elements were just repurposed into Warframe. More so. Right. But, I mean, from what... The story's stupid. I wrote the story stupid in an endearing way. And I do still agree with that after rewatching some cutscenes a little bit before the podcast. It's not a story that's going to make you go like, oh, Hayden Tenno is the coolest protagonist that I've ever played in a video game. Neither is it going to be like, oh, Nadia or Mesner or the world of Dark Sector is a cool place. It's very video gamey, where it's like, whatever. Like, you just appear in this random Eastern European country, and there's an infection, but we don't know what the infection is at the time, and you have to get out within 8 hours before you'll be compromised from the infection, and you're like a sleeper agent or something. It's like, we just kill whoever, we don't care, just following orders. So it's very gamey of, we don't care, bro. We're just telling you to go do something so that you have something to shoot and play the game as extra shit is happening. But I enjoyed it. Even though I enjoyed it, but I mean, other than the other than the affection, like, who really cares what the fuck is going on? Not in a bad way, not in a like it's bad, or not in a it's not fleshed out, but more so in a I'm more interested in that weird arm and the glaive that he has and what's going on with that and why it keeps mutating more. Like, I want to see more of that and explaining the mystery behind that, which they don't do, rather
Right.
than the military shit that he has to do regardless of it.
Yeah, I tend to not be interested in the um government or military aspects of storytelling where it's like, how you, as you were explaining, he's a sleeper agent, and this is, there's some sort of, cold war happening here, and the biological warfare, and an alien extraction site, and it's kept secret, and I'm just like, I don't really care about that kind of stuff. It's not interesting to me. It could be that it's been done to death too, where it's
Yeah.
like there's no intrigue. It's like, okay, obviously the government's the bad guy and they're going to betray your main character because he's disposable, and it's just like, okay, like I've seen it, and it's not done better here. But it does make me wonder about, like, the advertising for this game. I remember thinking to myself that it felt like a gimmick, right? Like a gameplay gimmick to have a character with this arm and this glaive to kind of switch up the formula of third person shooting, right? Because that's sort of where I think the idea is born out of. Like, what if what if it's a third person shooter, but what if they could also have some sort of shuriken projectile kind of thing, and that does modify the gameplay a little bit, and it feels like the story, they needed to like come up with reasons for why this was the case. Like, well,
How did he get this glaive arm?
yeah, how did he exactly, but we also need to make it edgy, and they almost lean too much into the story, I think, because I feel like with such a fun idea of, like, having your player character have the glaive and all these moves, like, you don't really get a lot of strong set pieces to show off that gimmick, that sort of feature, because they lean so hard into the story. You get a lot of cutscenes about it, and the whole game feels like it's driven by its story as opposed to being driven by the gameplay, and doing more fun gamey things in levels. It's like, no, you're just going here because now the story requires it, as opposed to like, we're doing this sequence because we want to do something new with the glaive and your little, and your character and their abilities. And I guess I'm thinking of like how Doom is so gameplay forward, and the story is just kind of like in the background, like it's there to like lead things, but like you're there for the gameplay and the fast freneticism of it. Or Bulletstorm is a better example of like where the gameplay is like, look, everything else super silly, goofy, but like the gameplay here is what makes it fun. Like it's a first person shooter with like a sling, and that's the gimmick, and that's what makes it fun. But with this, it could have been cooler, but they focused more on like just the story, which is interesting. And I don't know why that was the case. All that to say that I feel like the story just was like, yeah, I was just like, okay, that's fine, I guess. I don't know. I got a little bit interested when he put on the Warframe or whatever, the Tenno suit. When he puts that on, I was like, oh, cool. Like, how is this gonna progress now? Like, and then you fight Nadia and she's in her suit, which kind of falls flat, the whole thing. I was like, wait, what? She's wearing the suit? Because it's like a reveal sort of thing, like, surprise, it's Nadia in the suit. And I'm just like, I didn't. We just met her like one
time
level ago. Yeah, like I don't. It was kind of like, okay,
I guess, like, there was no hint, like they didn't show her being like a big bad or like stopping something with like her bare hands and being like, I have some special shit. Like, it wasn't alluded to. It just was like, oh yeah, I'm the person. Yeah.
There was no setup.
And I guess my other, it's interesting having this game right back to back with Death by Degrees because I feel the same with both of these stories. Where as I play it, the story's engaging and I'm enjoying the story as I experience it, but it's not captivating enough for me to be like, yeah, that was cool. I like this. I like these characters or this world, or to try to dive in deeper to try to like read a text log or anything of the sorts like that, you know. More so like Crank, like the movie Crank. I'm
Right.
trying to think of movies off the top of my head, but Crank is a good
Crank.
example of that, where the story is, if you really pay attention to the story is fucking ridiculous. It's stupid. It's
Hmm.
dumb, but you're there for the fun. Oh, his heart is a generator. Ha ha. He's got to do shit to keep him up. You're there
Right,
for
right.
that, and
Exactly.
Jason Statham
Exactly.
doing cool shit. And they could have just honestly, like on some Bionic Commando shit, just he's a guy with a glaive arm. He does
Exactly.
cool missions for us. And
Yes.
that would have been enough explanation. I wouldn't need no explanation. This is a new world. Like, that's cool with me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very generational thing too, and what audiences wanted. Generational in terms of like the console generations, not like people
Yeah,
generations.
because during this
Um,
time, I believe, speaking of Bionic Commando, I believe the Bionic Commando with the dreadlocks did come out that exact year as well. Yeah, 2008. Yeah, same time.
yeah. Yeah, so the story overall, I mean, if you're gonna buy this game, I don't think that you should be expecting anything groundbreaking story wise. But I don't know, games. I always say this. I feel like once every every episode about you play games for the gameplay ultimately. A lot of people want really great stories in their games, and I guess that's fine, but ultimately I'm there for the gameplay because that's what separates it from other mediums. Um but yeah, I don't know. The story, I mean, Hayden himself was also just very flat as a character. Um but he just felt like a generic protagonist. So
Didn't
different
have
ideas
any
there.
didn't have any
Exactly.
standing personality traits to make me go like, oh, he's gun ho or he's a hothead or anything like that. He was very
Yeah.
just standard
Exactly, yeah.
action hero dude.
Well, yeah, let's move on to gameplay then. I mean, there's a lot to say about gameplay here, as simple as the game is, but there's kind of a lot of interesting things that go on here. Um, what are your highlights, or what do you have in mind when you were playing?
I really like the idea of infection guns. I thought that was a really cool gameplay idea of if you pick up an enemy gun, you only have a limited amount of time to use it before it like combusts because you're infected. I thought that was cool and made gunfights a little bit more interactive because if I was out of ammo, I had to go and sprint, glaive this enemy, grab their gun, use it as much as I can before. So I had to be more aggressive and then go back to
Yeah,
defensive with my glaive and my shield
yeah,
to reverse back. I thought that was a good idea, especially because the glaive felt good to use. I really loved using the glaive. I got to a certain point to where charging up the power attack with the rhythm of it, it just became second nature to me. I didn't even need to see the like indicator. It was like, okay, I know this exact second it's going to be good.
right.
Just cutting off enemies' heads. It felt good. It felt very good when it was working. I didn't. But that's also the caveat is that a lot of the times, like, because of the screen shake, like shooting recoil, the ugly ass reticule, like
Yeah,
pistols, and when you even if you upgrade the accuracy and everything, it just didn't feel good to shoot any gun in the game. To where I started to rely on the glaive because I was like, I don't even want to shoot this shit, bro. I'll just run up and hit him at this point.
hmm,
But I overall thought, I mean, other than it being, a standard bare bones cover shooter for the time, you're gonna run the cover, you're gonna crouch under chest high cover, you're gonna pop out, you're gonna shoot people as they pop out, you know what I mean? You've played this before by this point, you know what I mean? And
Right.
It's
Yeah,
serviceable.
going back to it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
going back
serviceable
to, like,
enough
that.
to complete the entire game, and I never felt annoyed or like, oh yeah, this is it. I've saw all that I needed to see, even throughout from hour 1 to the final hour. At least it was good enough to get through the entire game, and I respected for it having enough diversity and new mechanics introduced that it was able to at least lead you to the finish line.
I think I agree with most of that. I th- I think there were some really great ideas here. Like we were just talking about the glaive and like the gunplay. I think that having the dual wielding of like the glaive and like a pistol was like really the sweet spot of that game for sure. I
Yes,
think
yes.
like I think at some point I had a shotgun as like my two-handed weapon, and then uh automatic pistol and the glaive, and like that combination was just felt really good. To shoot an enemy, wait till they were staggered enough, and then finish them off with the glaive, or vice versa, where you hit them with the glaive, they get staggered, and
Then
then
you shoot them.
yeah, headshot, yeah, and then you like their limbs fly off, so you got like the visual feedback of like that's just that satisfaction of like, yeah, this thing is sharp and it'll fuck people up. Yeah, the glaive felt good, and it's kind of like I was saying about the story, that it's a shame they didn't focus more and do more things with it. They do quite a bit. There's a couple of puzzles that involve you throwing the glaive, and it absorbs electricity, fire, or ice, and you might freeze a pond, or you might freeze water, which is like, I guess, the same thing. You might like light a gas leak on fire. You might
Yeah, like restart a
charge,
generator or something.
yeah, restart a generator. So there's some creative use there, few and far between, but enough. But it would be nice to see more implementations of that, because that is the highlight of the game for sure, is like that glaive and all that, right? That's like the star. It's not Hayden, it's the fucking glaive.
It's the
That thing
glaive.
is like, it's the glaive. It's interesting how they it's interesting how they get you to use the glaive too, like you're saying, the infected weapons,
Yes.
the infection proof weapons, I guess,
Yeah, the
where
opposite, I guess.
yeah, because basically, yeah, the enemies have these weapons, and they're sensitive to people that are infected, so you get locked out essentially, and they explode if you use their weapons. And so that forces you to use your glaive more, and also be considerate with your ammo, because you're only finding ammo in these crates that are like kind of placed at random places. There was many times where I ran out of ammo, and I was
A lot of times for
only
me,
had
I
the
ran out of
fucking
ammo.
glaive. Yeah.
I had
And
to
it's
fight a whole
interesting.
boss without that shit.
Oh, really? Fuck.
I had to fight the jackal without that shit, bro.
Yeah, so what I noticed was that when you collect ammo for all weapon types. So what I would do is because for a while I had, like, you didn't want to have your semi-automatic, your pistol shooting the same type of ammo as your main gun. Like, for instance, I had the assault rifle, and I had the automatic pistol. They both use the same ammo type, so my ammo pool was draining, and then I
That's
would end
probably
up, I'm
why I
like,
had no
fuck.
ammo for like half the game, because I used the
Yeah.
automatic pistol and the assault rifle. That's probably why I was
Yeah.
like, why am I never having ammo?
Exactly, yeah. So you had to like switch it up. So there was like a disincentive to get you to sort of play with more of the other weapons. But I thought the gameplay, or the gunplay rather, was good, specifically when you were dual wielding with the pistol and the glaive. When it was just like a shotgun like I had, it's like it was serviceable, but you could feel that it was definitely meant to be played with that glaive in your hand, especially because you can't do any of your special abilities, right? When you don't have the glaive readied, like you can't put up your shield, you can't do the you can't do any of like the cool the cool fucking attacks.
Yeah, you can't do the bomb. Can't grab. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. And even then, why was the shield an actual force field? And why wasn't it like the glaive spinning and you like holding your arm out and shooting through it or something like that?
Yeah, because it's interesting that he got these abilities after you beat like major bosses. Well, most of them. Some of them you just get, some of the abilities, but some of them, like the invisibility, you get that after, beating like you get that after you beat the invisibility beast or whatever, and then you get, I think you get the shield after you beat a shielded enemy, like one of the bigger bosses, something like that. But like you get all these abilities, and I just feel like they're just not used enough. The invisibility you get late in the game, and you like use it twice for like this little puzzle segment where you just have to hide from a camera to get past the door.
And then you never use it ever again.
Yeah. I was like, damn, I don't. And there's no like stealth, like you're not going to stealth your way through the game. It doesn't work like that. You can't
crouch and walk. And even the more, I didn't even use the shield as much as that. Like I kind of used the shield maybe like once or twice if I had to like move from cover to cover and I was fighting like a boss. Or like the explosive one where you like grab the glaive and then you charge it with like electricity and then you throw it and blow it up. I think I only did it once they gave it to us, and then after that I forgot I had it until I would accidentally click and be like, oh shit, oh yeah.
Yeah. I used that a lot for bosses for sure. It was cool, and like the like toys they give you to play with, like the abilities, they're solid. Like they're really fun. Just on the point of like the limited use weapons or whatever, the infection proof weapons, I was kind of curious that, do you think it was to keep players using the glaive, or was it strictly story related because Hayden is effective? Because I felt like it was multi-tiered on why they chose that, but I thought it was, I don't know.
I believe they gave it a story. I believe they gave it a story explanation, but I feel like they did that so that you wouldn't just, because if you would never use the glaive. You would just use the assault rifle.
Right.
Run over, grab the shotgun, use the shotgun, and keep grabbing the assault rifle ammo from other dead enemies until you're good. Yeah. You would never use the glaive unless you were completely ass out.
Right.
But they want you to use the glaive, so that's why the pistol feels the best. That's why the glaive feels the best. That's why they made that assault rifle feel like shit.
Yeah, they really did not give a fuck. I find that game design just so interesting, in that they're like, fuck, we made this game all around this premise of this glaive, and I'm sure maybe they did some testing on it too, where they were like, players are not using it. They're just grabbing assault rifles and shotguns and picking up
playing this like a regular third-person shooter. What the fuck?
Yeah. So they had to limit them. They had to, like you can only use it for a set amount of time, which was interesting too. It's like they could have chosen for you not to be able to pick them up at all. There's plenty of games that don't let you pick up your enemy's weapons when they drop,
Right.
So it's kind of interesting that they even let you use it for like a minute or 30 seconds before it explodes.
And most, I think I could get like one clip out of it and then it would blow up. Yeah. We mentioned the black market earlier, but what did you think about the upgrades that you could find littered throughout the world? And did you get a build going for your pistols?
Man, the whole upgrade thing I felt was really an afterthought.
Yes.
Like it was not needed, and it was strange. I mean, it was kind of cool that you could find things in the world if you like went off the beaten path, and those things were always going to be credits or an upgrade, which gave you the like I hated that every time you picked it up it would give you like the same spiel, accuracy. It would be like
this one
accuracy,
decrease the recoil.
Yeah, but then it would say like developed by this person, and it's just like it says that for every, like, why are you showing this to me? Why it's just so strange to me that it's just like copy and paste text.
Yeah, you think somebody played Parasite Eve and was like, yo, we need to add these like parameters to our guns. That would be pretty cool, right? Because it's the same thing where it's like you get these random things and then you add them to your gun, and if you fuck up, That's it. You
can't
can't take
yeah.
them back out. Like I think I had to sell my assault rifle and then buy it again so I could respec it and like add some extra things to it. So
Yeah.
I didn't like
Yeah,
it.
I wasn't a fan. I didn't feel like it was impactful, especially because you're more incentivized to use your glaive than you are these guns, anyways. So it was it was a bizarre choice to me. It was also not very well, like when you're in the menus, the upgrade menus, it's just not clear how it works. I was kind of confused on like
Yeah,
what the fuck I was doing the
it
whole
shows
time.
stats, but the stats don't really move that much to be like, is it
Yeah.
really changing the it shows like a bar graph, like the damage is increased. But it's like,
Yeah.
is it? It feels the same to me. Same with the accuracy.
Exactly.
I think I put 2 accuracies on the assault rifle, and I was like,
Nothing.
it feels the exact same.
Right. Yeah, there's no like there's no visual changes to the guns to, help solidify that in your mind. And so it was really weird. Don't think it was needed. I think I had I had a lot of upgrades that I picked up that I could have sold to buy more weapons now that I think about it, but I just didn't. I think I used the shotgun and the automatic pistol. Once I had that combo going after like chapter 6, I never changed. I never went back. I just added, I think I might have added power to it, the stopping power, and that was it. I kept picking shit up, and I'm like, I'm not gonna use this. I'm not gonna use these credits. Like, what am I supposed? And shit, like the economy too was wild. Like you barely got any credits.
60,000 for this assault rifle. What the fuck?
Yeah, you barely got any credits, and everything was so expensive. I was like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna stick with this fucking shotgun because reasons, but shit was expensive and it was hard to come by.
It's got to be like a new game plus kind of thing or something like that. And I guess that's where the Resident Evil 4-esque comparisons come in, because Resident Evil 4 had money. You had to spend money, and you had to replay again to maximize certain guns and monies and stuff. So I guess it's the same.
The gameplay is the best part of this game. I mean, hands down, right? The glaive is the star. No pun intended, because I guess it's not star shaped, but like a shuriken kind of, Let's go over the powers that you get. First power you get is the super throw. And that's where
it's the only move you'll ever use throughout the entire game. You need it.
The second one, I believe, is either the shield or the ability to control the glaive as it's like,
I think it's to control the glaive first. I think remote control first. Which, I mean, was for the couple puzzles and the one boss fight that you need to use it on, it works. But I was never in the middle of combat. Like, all right,
never used it.
Take control.
No,
wobble this bitch around.
Now it reminded me of the Batman Batarang when you can do that with like that thing. I'm like, I'm never gonna use this thing.
Right.
You have those two. You get the shield. I use the shield quite frequently to save my ass. I think it didn't last long enough, but it was it definitely helped me, especially because I had the shotgun. So I would use the shield and then go up to somebody and then just use the shotgun to blast them. What else did you get? You got the
you get invisibility.
Right. Isn't there something? Oh, I guess you get the ability to explode your glaive when you have an element on it.
Yeah, so you can throw it and then explode it to so you can explode electricity or explode fire to make a giant fireball or something of sorts like that.
Right. Yeah. And then that's it, right?
Yeah. Do you get something when you get the full suit?
No, unfortunately. I was waiting for like a power, like a AoE sort of like thing.
Yeah, there's like
I was waiting for
the glaive all around me.
Yeah,
it's like
I was really waiting for something like that, and that's what I remember when I sent you that picture. I'm like, what the fuck is this thing at the top of the D-pad or whatever? And you're like, that's your flashlight. And I was like, what? I thought it was like a superpower, like a fucking ultimate. This whole time, and I was trying to figure out how, because I swear to God, it looked like the glaive was glowing whenever I hit that. So I was like, oh, it's charged up. How do I press in both? Yeah, how do I activate it? I feel like an idiot when you told me that's a flashlight. I was like, oh, fuck.
No, trust me, I did the same exact thing, so you're all good.
Oh, you
Oh,
did?
you got steal. That was the other ability. You could throw the glaive at like a weapon on the floor, and it would bring the weapon to you.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
actually really cool. I like that a lot because you could do that with almost anything, like with like credits. If you could see them in the distance, you could do that with boxes.
Right.
I thought that's a very gamey because it's not realistic. How the fuck is a glaive gonna carry it all this shit back to you? But yeah, really cool. I like that was fun, and I thought they could have done more with that as well, but they didn't. Like, imagine being able to steal an enemy's gun out of their hands with the glaive. You know,
Exactly. Look at you.
or
Look
what?
at you
Or
being a
what
young
if?
game developer. 'Cause that's
Or
some
what
fire
if?
shit.
Or what if you could like throw your glaive and then it would cut their weapon? Like if you aimed it right, it would just fucking so they're just like useless. And
Yeah,
then they
they're
like
just
pull out their
walking
pistol
around.
or something.
Exactly.
But they're less of a threat now because they don't have their assault rifle. So
Yeah, the zombies, you can throw a glaive at their legs and they will fall and crawl towards you slowly or something like
Right.
that. You chop off their like little sword arm and they're like,
yeah. So I mean, they could have done a lot of things with it, and it's a pretty short game. It feels like a complete experience, but it feels like it could have used some time to cook. You know?
yeah, what an extra $100,000 and 10 more years of development. It's been a great game, man.
Oh my god. It's funny because you can sometimes imagine what these games might look like in like the present time, right? I can almost see this game being like a digital only, like almost like a cell shaded look to it, and it being more arcadey, right? It being more like,
Yeah,
like
you
I was
can
saying,
see
like
the points popping up when you throw the glaive and chop somebody's head off. It'd be like plus 100 points combo.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can
Shit
see
like
them
that.
doing
Yeah.
shit like that. That's why it makes
could
it
almost.
interesting and just to like, well, Warframe 1999 have you with the glaive, so that like it's kind of like because Warframe, that shit is fast. It's fast, it's bombastic, it's very colorful, and just imagining that, but like from what we've seen of the gameplay, it looks slower. But I just imagine like, oh, now if I have a glaive, like if they're just like, let's just try it again. Let's just try Hayden
Right.
Tenno again with his glaive. Let's see if it's still cool.
Yeah. And it is, right? I mean, I think
it's cool. It's cool now. Even playing this game, it's like this is a cool feature. I like this.
yeah, and that's why in the Discord I was saying like this is actually pretty impressive. Like I actually like this. I mean, it's not the greatest game, but like I was just because I hear no one talking about it, and because it had like middle. I think it actually got a lot of sevens, so it's not like it was hated, But I was like, this is sort of this is solid as fuck, Like it surprised me so many times as I was playing it, Like one of the moments that really surprised me, and I was like, this is kind of cool. Like the first one was when you're underground, you're stuck in this like you're stuck in this area with water, and there's like 2 cement pillars, and all these infected are coming at you, and it's one of the first times you encounter the infected, and it's just like wave after wave, and it's like pretty dire because I don't think I had much ammo at that point, so I was just like, fuck, when is this gonna stop, And it was dark too, and I didn't know I had a flashlight, so I was just like fighting in the darkness, and I was like,
You was
this
just
is kind of
thugging it out.
intense. Yeah, I was like, this is kind of intense. I like this, And then the second part was when I was surprised by the ability to ride a jackal, or I was not expecting
Same.
to be able to. I
That
was
was
like,
a very
whoa,
nice surprise.
I mean, it's not anything special. You have like the counter measures, you have your rockets, and you have like machine guns, and it honestly kind of like it feels ugly to be in it. Like it's really stiff.
You're just shooting in a general direction, shooting everything.
Yeah, and the way like the animation is, it like feels like it's not, which is probably on purpose, but the machine doesn't feel flexible.
Yeah,
it feels like it's like inching along. Yeah,
I feel like it's scraping the ground.
That part, I think also the boss fight with the Colossus. Do you remember that boss fight in the church?
Yes.
I thought it was fascinating that there was no hints. There was no like, oh, do this in order to do this. Like it was all intuitive game design that let the player know what you needed to do in order to defeat him. Like he was jumping on these things, and then what you needed to do, I think, was electrocute him for him to fall down, I think. or like each pillar like came down, right? Like
or you could, I think you did have the explosive power by that time, so you could throw the glaive after you like imbue it with electricity and then blow it up, and it would knock the pillar down with him, and then you can do like a finisher to not go to the next phase of the fight.
Yeah, and it was all like intuitive. Like I don't know if it's just our like years of playing games, but like it all like flowed. Like I was never left wondering like, this is frustrating, I can't get past this, I don't know what to do. You know, it was all clear to me based on like how he was moving, and like a lot of games have like the big boss character comes charging towards you. If you move, he'll hit the wall, or he'll hit a pillar and it'll break. He'll get dizzy. Yeah. So just like little things like that, I thought were pretty cool because it wasn't hand-holdy. So it kind of just let you figure it out on your own. This was a double-edged sword though, because I think with the Nadia fight, when you fight her in her Warframe or whatever, I didn't know what the fuck. I was like shooting her for the longest time. Like, I don't know what to do with you.
That was
and
me
I'm looking
with the
around.
Blue guys with the miniguns. That was me with the blue guys, where I'm just throwing glaives and blowing it up. Like, why is he not fucking dying? Little do I know, I have to hit the 3 little collar pieces to make him blow up. Then you can hit him. I'm like, who the fuck is looking at those blue things like that's interactable?
Right. That is true. Yeah, that's one that took me a little bit. I'm trying to think of how I figured that out. I think maybe by accident.
I think by the second time that you fight that boss, I figured that out. But the first time, I think I just off a whim from throwing the explosives and throwing it, I think I just killed it by accident. I was like, okay, cool. We got it.
I think because I was going for a headshot, I think I threw the glaive and it hit the little power bank, and then I was like, oh wait, okay. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
Right.
But yeah, stuff like that I thought was good. But yeah, I guess it is a double-edged sword. Final boss fight with Messner? Was that the final boss fight?
The thing?
Whatever the thing, yeah.
Whatever the fuck that shit was.
Yeah.
It was a blob.
It kind of reminded me of Control a little bit. I was getting a little bit of Control vibes because you go down to like the dark sector. Like you could imagine the dark sector being a level in Control. Like just like the name and like it being like below ground and it being like this huge fucking thing. I was like, oh, okay, the dark sector.
It was I think the only thing was it was very laborious to try to glaive the little tentacles that were popping out and trying to hit them at the exact spots. That was probably the only annoying part. I think I just kept throwing and blowing it up to
same to like cover more damage. Yeah, it was simple. It was very much just do it 3 times and then you're good.
Good old.
Did you get that auto death? Or that fucking instant death where after you knock down the tentacles, he does like some sort of psychic thing or whatever. Yes, and your screen's getting all blurry, and you're like trying to figure out what to do. And essentially, you're just supposed to damage him enough so it'll stop. But like at first, it's not clear like what the fuck you're doing. Then you just die.
Yeah, like, that was my first death, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna just thug it out each time. I don't know, I guess.
Yeah.
This shit is crazy.
Yeah, because again, it's one of those things where it doesn't say, so you're just like, okay, so it's a trial and error thing for sure. You die first, and you're like, okay, so there's something. Do I need to hide behind cover from this thing? Do I need to like put up my? I think I put up my shield when that happened. So after he does that like attack, I thought like I needed to use my shield. I thought it was gonna have you use all your abilities. But,
you got to turn invisible because he's looking for you or something. Nah.
Yeah, no.
I don't like you like that.
Yeah, not that clever. It's not that clever. Although it would have been cool, right? Like when he uses that, you use your shield, or maybe like your invisibility, or you have to like,
or even the lead up to it, that was like the tentacles would pop through the wall, and you would have to go invisible so that it doesn't track you or something as you move slowly towards it.
Yeah, that'd be like really cool. But it's not that serious, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, overall, Dark Sector is a game it's interesting because now that I've played it, I understand exactly why. I always saw it as a kid in the bargain bin and in the under $9.99 section of any game store. But there's something here. And it's interesting because I know, like, usually, when games that we play, we have that shitty talk at the end where we're like, damn, and they never did anything with this again. Oh, if
Right,
only they
right.
tried it one more time. Just one more
Yeah,
time.
Dark Sector too. It's always the like sequels in games almost are always better. Because they improve
Warframe.
upon everything.
It's been going on for
Yeah.
15 years now, bro.
It's insane. Like I feel like sequels really, I mean, Street Fighter 2. It's not Street Fighter, it's Street Fighter 2 when they improve things. It's Resident Evil 2 when things got like, I mean, Silent Hill 2, like fucking just think of every except
Demon
for
Souls,
I guess,
Dark Souls.
Yeah, Dark Souls was like there's when they get to, it sucks because that means that there's a there's a lot of money that you have to put up front in order to get a sequel done, and it has to do well or else it just dies on the leave. You don't get that second try. But yeah, but a lot of the times games evolve and are better in their second iteration because the first one is like of the beta. I guess I'm trying to think of a game that is, the first one is like, damn, that the second one sucks, the first one is it.
Before the third Devil May Cry came out, you could say that.
That's true.
Like, Devil May Cry 1 is infinitely better than Devil May Cry 2.
Very true.
I would say the same thing about Onimusha as well. Onimusha 1, I feel, is
better,
a lot stronger than Onimusha. Well, Onimusha 1 is a lot better than Onimusha 2 in terms of what it was trying to do, I guess.
Right.
Onimusha 2 just does a lot that I don't think fits what Onimusha was trying to go for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, I think it's cool that Dark Sector was able to evolve into Warframe and then able to go back and maybe Warframe 1999 after we record this releases and it's exactly what we think it is. And it's just like, let's just try again.
Right.
Let's not go super crazy Warframe, but let's ground the Warframe a little bit. Throw it back out to the masses, see if they like Dark Sector 2.
And make it run at 60 frames. Yeah.
Exactly.
I was watching gameplay of it. It's just like with Resident Evil Raccoon City, Operation Raccoon City, where we saw like the 60 frames per second gameplay, and it's just like, damn, this actually looks way like it looks like it could have been fun if it ran smoothly.
Watching the PC gameplay, like, wait a minute.
Yeah, let's go back.
This should look good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like Dragon's Dogma, where it's just like, yeah, let's just release a sequel. It's not a literal sequel. It's just we're redoing the game. We're just gonna expand. We're gonna do exactly what we wanted to do.
I thought I read somewhere that they were trying to, that the God, what was it, the producer? Someone said that Dragon's Dogma 2 is what they wanted to do with the first one.
Yes.
So is that am I making that up?
Yeah, that's correct. Because in the first Dragon's Dogma, it's alluded to, but I think are the original documents that they were trying to do what they were doing now, where it was two kingdoms that you go to, but instead they just chopped it down to one kingdom in the first game. They were trying, so like most of the stuff they were trying to do, I guess, in the second game, and we'll see. Because at the time of recording this, the second game isn't out, but
yeah,
we'll be playing.
Hopefully by the. What do you think? Would you recommend this as a game that PS3 collectors should absolutely have in their collection, or is it just like a not something you need? What do you think?
I would say so. I would say this is one of those ones that you have to have in your collection. I'm always a proponent of not every game in your collection needs to be a wow, this is the best games on PlayStation 2, or these are the best of all time, the most critically acclaimed, or these have a story. Like Dark Sector is just, it's a fun game. It's a fun 7-hour game, and it was fun from beginning to end when I played it, and that's all that it needed to be. I can see its shortcomings, but I'm not going to hold it up against itself because it was a very sporadic climate for the video game industry. It was a lot of things that were shifting at the time culturally, so I can't really give it flack for being like, oh, it's a ripoff of this, or oh, it could have did this better. It's like, nobody knew what the fuck to do at that time. So
Yeah, it was still the Wild West. The new wait, was this a PS3 exclusive?
No, it was on 360 as well. I almost wanted to play it on PC on Steam, but I was like, nah, give me the authentic console experience. I want to see what it was like. Because if it'll be a Raccoon City. Like, you'll be like, yeah, this game was ass. And I'll be like, bro, this shit was amazing. 60 frames, 4K.
Yeah.
Like, this shit was cool.
It would be kind of nice to know like how much that would change the game feel, you know, because I mean, we had a lot of issues with the way the game ran, Operation Raccoon City. So it would be like interesting to go back and be like, we're playing at 60 frames, it's way better, or it's just like, yeah, the guns still feel gross, the movement is still, you know, it's smoother, but it's just not better. Like, I'm kind of curious how much that would change our opinion about things.
Maybe. I would say, yeah, if you're not going to get it on PS3, if you're like, I don't want to get it on Xbox or PS3, then get the PC version. It's probably like $2 or some shit.
Yeah. And it's fun. I think, well, I mean, it's the only game that I can think of that has a glaive, right? I mean, there's probably something out there where you get like a tool that you could throw, but like...
It's always a boomerang or some dumb shit, but this is like well, Bloons Tower Defense has a glaive, but you don't control the glaive. It's like so I guess this is the only game where you can actively throw a glaive and kill somebody, so...
And the visual style is one I think that is not going to be replicated for a while. You know?
Yes.
This is a very 2008 looking game, and we're going to have to wait probably another decade before this is like a cool style or something. Yeah, like we're gonna like inspired by the games of the early 2000s, you know, like it's gonna be a while before we sort of see this
game looks like muddy shit on purpose, I promise.
It looks grimy and dirty and gritty and dark and shitty, you know. So but yeah, well, I mean, I would say absolutely anybody out there collecting for PS3 games, this is a great one to add to your collection. It's cheap, very solid game, and PS3 and 7th generation? Is that what it is?
Yeah, 7th generation, yeah.
Yeah, if you're collecting for 7th
generation.
generations.
This shit is fucking...
Yeah. I know, because for me, the generations start with, like,
PS1?
64. Yeah, PS1, yeah.
Like, so, that's first generation to me.
The first time I found out that there was, like, you know, it went back further, I was like, oh, shit, yeah, I guess. That's right.
I guess Atari's first generation.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, shit.
Games have changed so much. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for hanging out with us again and listening to our Dark Sector Back of the Rack episode. We're probably going to have some new-ish content coming out by the time you hear this, or before. I'm not even sure when this will drop. Maybe, I don't know, we're thinking like mid-March or something.
Yeah,
late March.
Like mid-March.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Sondi, great seeing you. Great talking to you.
As always. Can't
wait to do Dragon's Dogma episode. As we fucking... When we do the episode, we'll probably be playing Dragon's Dogma 2, so it'll be... I feel like it'll be a discussion. It'll be like a really...
We're going to be in there deep. We're going to be deep.
Yeah.
It's going to be a 6-hour discussion.
Yeah, I know, right? You're going to be doing... Are you doing day one? Are you... Like, did you already pre-order and all that?
I have not pre-ordered. Thank you for reminding me to go to GameStop to pre-order. Listen.
Yeah, I pre-ordered mine.
So my pre-order just went down the drain at the casino yesterday, man.
I guess, yeah, you spent $40.
My mom coerced me. We were buying drinks, and then she was like, "We didn't get called for Wheel of Fortune, so fuck it. Let's go play." And I was like, "Mom, no, let's go home." And she's like, "No, I'm leaving with something." And I was like,
was it just you two?
It was my whole family. We all pulled up as like a family. And then me and my mom were just in there. And then she was like, I lost it in like 3 minutes flat. Like, I was like, all right, 220s, here you go. And I was like,
wow,
gone. I accidentally pressed the like times 10 button. And I was like, oh, that's $30 right there. Yep. Fuck.
Yeah.
I'm gone.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I can't gamble.
Me neither.
I cannot do it. Yeah, anyways. Good talking to you. Thanks, guys. Love you all. Catch you in the next one. Peace.